Hi guys, Robo46 here, welcome yourselves back to MotoGP 21 on the Xbox Series X. Today we're doing a 100% race distance race around Mugello with Jack Miller. But before we begin, we had the horrible news that Jason Dupasquier lost his life after a horrible accident in qualifying at Mugello. The young 19-year-old Swiss rider was fighting for his life and unfortunately succumbed to his injuries. Rest in peace, Jason. So, we are, as I said, racing at Mugello. This is a very difficult race. Probably the hardest race I've had to do so far. And you will see me going a little bit defensive in maybe, I think it's about 3 corners I have to go defensive. Just because the AI through there are quite happy just to barge you out of the way. It is quite a good race. I do have to do a long lap penalty at some point as well. But yeah, enjoy, and we shall talk about the racing. So, obviously, I've already touched on the sad news that we had throughout the weekend of the loss of the young Moto3 rider, Swiss rider, 19-year-old Jason Dupasquier. But Moto3 went out and put on a good show as always, and it was a big old fight. It was a big old fight in Moto3 as always. And Mugello is one of those circuits, obviously it's got that really long start-finish straight, so slipstream is paramount if riders want to make up not just one position, but multiple positions at a time. There was quite a big crash on the first lap, which included Koffler, Tate, Fernandez and Mino. They all went down together. Luckily, all the riders are okay. But it was quite a big crash. Just ahead of them as well, Dennis Onchu went down. And basically out of Savelli, he had the harder option rear tyre on and just opened the throttle a bit too soon with a cold rear tyre. High-sided himself out of the race. And then you had the big crash just behind him, like I said, between Mino, Fernandez, Tate and Koffler. And also going out on lap 1 was Alberto Sura, who was making his Grand Prix debut with the... well, he's part of the VR46 Academy team in the CEV Moto3 Junior Championship. But yeah, he didn't make it past lap 1, unfortunately. And that's basically all the DNFs throughout the race, to be fair. All on lap 1. But we had a big old fight, a big group of, I think it was about 15 riders fighting for the lead. You had a lot of riders in there, a lot of talent, and, you know, they fought hard, they raced hard, but, you know, at one point you had Pedro Acosta who got into the lead. Having a few struggles throughout the weekend has Acosta, but he managed to kind of ride through the problems that he was having with his KTM. To put up a decent fight, and like I said, he led for a little bit of the race, but as soon as it got to that start-finish straight, he, you know, at one point he went from first down to like 10th place just within the course of that straight. So yeah, it is. It's one of those you definitely don't want to be leading onto the start-finish straight unless you have about half a second lead. Bearing in mind, obviously, the start-finish line is, well, a little bit before halfway down the straight. But, you know, throughout the race, that even past that, people are still going to be slipstreaming you down to turn 1. And we saw just that with a lot of riders. Romano Fenati was looking good at one point. He was fighting up there with them for the lead and everything, and putting some really, really good moves through, especially through Arrabbiata 2. Just shoving up the inside and getting into the lead. But, you know, like I said, you don't want to be leading onto the start-finish straight, and as soon as the leader got onto the straight, you know, more than a handful of riders would just blast past, because that slipstream is so important in Moto3, more so in Moto3 than the other 2 categories. You will see me in this race using it or having to use it, just because the AI around here in this game are just insane. And obviously as tyre wear starts to creep in for me, it doesn't for the AI. So yeah, things do get very, very tough in this race, and Mir just wouldn't leave me alone. But yeah, he had a big fight up the front. You had Dennis Foggia, whose Leopard Honda was very, very fast. Basically, if he could exit the final corner in the lead, he didn't really lose the lead until after they'd gone over the line, which obviously really bode well for the final lap. And we know that the Leopard Hondas have been very, very quick throughout the years, and Foggia was definitely taking full advantage of that. Even when he actually used slipstream, didn't have to stay in it as long as some of the other riders, because he was able to get past just from the power of his machine alone. Darren Binder up there. John McPhee did join the party at one point and actually led for a little bit. Pedro Acosta there as well. His main championship rival Sergio Garcia was there fighting, trying to obviously get past Acosta. Darren Binder, Sasaki, Rodrigo, Masia. A lot of riders. You had Philip Salach as well. He was trying to get through. He put some nice moves on Acosta earlier on in the race to get through. Antonelli as well. He was in that front group. Kaito Toba, Stefano Nepa, and Jeremy Alcoba, who did start dropping back towards the end of the race. Artigas had 2 long lap penalties to serve throughout the race because of he was dawdling on the racing line during qualifying, so he had 2 long laps to have to take throughout the race. But yeah, it was a good race. Moto3 is always a good race, as I always say. It's definitely the best way to open a race weekend, and they're all youngsters. They're all keen to show what they can do, and all very, very talented. And it was just a thrill to watch. Yamanaka, who was Dupasquier's teammate, did not race. That team decided not to race any of their bikes, and neither did Thomas Luthi in Moto 2. So obviously them paying their respects and decided not to race this weekend. But yeah, back up the front, it was just to and fro, and literally every lap it was a different leader by the end of the start-finish straight into turn 1. Pedro Acosta was trying to keep his powder dry, standing around 3rd place, then trying to take the lead. He tried to break away, but the other riders didn't think anything of it. They didn't want to let him get away, and they managed to stay with him enough so that when they got to this start-finish straight, they were able to slipstream him and blast past. Acosta did actually do a few smart moves throughout the race. Towards the end of the race, he started going wide at one of the corners just before the fast S's towards the end of the lap. Because he didn't want to lead, because he knew that if he led onto the start-finish straight, he wouldn't lead over the line. So he was kind of just testing the water to see what would happen if he dropped a couple of positions and used the slipstream, and then to see if he could in fact slipstream them to the line and then take the win that way. I mean, for a 17-year-old, he's very, very intelligent and showing a lot of promise. Apparently he's already signed a contract to move up to Moto 2 next season, which is fantastic. I think he'll get on pretty well in Moto 2. I mean, he's surprised everyone in Moto 3 so far, so yeah, he's definitely one for the future. Well, he's one for now, especially in Moto 3, so I'm getting hounded by Suzuki's on this race at the moment. But yeah, it was this corner, in fact, he was purposely going wide, letting a couple of people come through, and then just trying to use their slipstream to try and get them by the line. But it didn't actually work that way. When he tried it, he kind of didn't quite manage to get them by the line. So it wasn't really a tactic he could use for the final lap of the race. Obviously, he needed to try and think of something else. Maybe try and get into the lead and break away. Even by about half a second. If they could get half a second, as Dennis Foggia found out, then he could still lead by they got to the line. He led over the line. So it was a very tactical race. And, you know, Mugello is always one of those races where you definitely don't want to be leading on the final lap coming out the final corner unless you have a bit of an advantage. So, yeah, it was definitely interesting to see a few of them, you know, trying to lose positions, a few of them trying to gain positions. Some of them were more than happy to lead. Some of them were not. They just wanted to stay within the front group. And as I said, you know, Pedro Acosta at one point went from the lead down to like 10th place, and then you saw some come from like 12th, 13th place into like the top 3. Yeah, it was just Moto3 around Mugello was just a spectacle to behold. And yeah, it was nice to see that apart from the names that I already said about with the people crashing on lap 1, it was nice to see everyone in that leading group finish the race. Artigas did take his 2 long lap penalties, but unfortunately for him, he was then too far back to actually cling on to the back of the leading group, and yeah, he couldn't get with them, unfortunately. So he had to battle his way back through the back of the field, and yeah, he just missed out on actually getting any points. But yeah, towards the end of the race, Pedro Acosta got beaten up a little bit, got shuffled back through the pack, and John McPhee, like I said, he did lead the race for a little bit, and then as soon as they got to the start finish straight, he lost loads of positions. So it was just one of them. He just had to try and play it smart, and it was Dennis Foggia who went on to take home victory for him. Like I said, that Leopard Honda is very, very quick, and he used that to his advantage. When he got into the lead, you had riders behind in Masia, Gabriel Rodrigo and Sasaki all fighting between themselves, which actually let the leader get away. Foggia broke away from the rest of them by about 0.7 of a second, which is quite a big margin around here. And yeah, that was more than enough to enable him to secure that win. So it was very good to see Foggia take victory at home. You had Gabriel Rodrigo trying to get the better of Masia, but Masia got him to the line, and Masia took 2nd place. Gabriel Rodrigo got 3rd. Sasaki got 4th place, and you had Darren Binder in 5th. Romano Fenati, who showed a lot of promise in the race, he ended up in 6th place. John McPhee 7th. Pedro Acosta, he ended up in 8th place. Obviously, that's 2 races on the bounce now. He's not been on the podium, and by his standards, obviously, that's not good. But for a rookie, you know, that's absolutely more than respectable. But obviously, he was hoping to be a bit further up the order. But yeah, 8th place for him. He did finish just ahead of his championship rival at the moment, Sergio Garcia. He finished in 9th place, and you had Suzuki in 10th. Phillips Latch took 11th, Kaito Toba 12th, Antonelli was 13th, Stefano Nepa was 14th, and the last point scoring position was Jeremy Alcoba in 15th place. Then you had Artigas in 16th after his 2 long lap penalties, Gravera in 17th, Ricardo Rossi 18th, Fellon in 19th, Bartolini in 20th, Izdihar in 21st, and Matsuyama in 22nd place. So that is the standings for the actual race. In terms of the championship though, Pedro Acosta, he leads on 111 points. His teammate is now 2nd. Joan Masia has moved into 2nd place, but he's only got 59 points, which is, you know, that is a big old gap to be behind the leader already. Then you got Sasaki in 3rd. He's got 57 points, so 2 points behind Masia, but even further behind Acosta. Then you got Sergio Garcia in 4th. He is on 56 points, and also on 56 points is Romano Fenati in 5th. Darren Binder is 6th on 47. Then you got Mino in 7th from 47. Actually, there's 3 of them on 47. Antonelli in 8th is also on 47. And then you got Foggia in 9th on 45. So Pedro Acosta still has a big old lead, and yeah, it's going to take a lot to try and stop him. But you know, if he continues having a run of like 8th places and the rest of them start getting the better of him, then there's no way that you know, he'll be able to hold that lead. But we'll have to wait and see. You know, we know that Acosta is very, very fast, so I suspect he will bounce back at Catalonia for the next Grand Prix. Over to Moto 2 now. So Moto 2 was a bit of an interesting race. It was fairly spread out. Crashing on the first race, you had Augusto Fernandez on the Mark VDS, Calex, and also Lorenzo Dalla Porta, who got clipped, and he went down. But yeah, at the front, Raul Fernandez got a cracking start and led pretty much the whole race. He got up to, I think it was about 2 seconds the gap at one point between himself and his teammate Remy Gardner. You had Sam Lowes, who didn't get the best of starts. We know that Lowes does struggle with his starts a little bit, so he had some work to do. He managed to get past Marco Bezzecchi, but then there was about 0.7 of a second gap to Remy Gardner for quite a lot of the race, and he was pushing, trying to catch Gardner. It wasn't until like maybe 3/4 of the way into the race that he did catch him, and then he set out about trying to catch Raul Fernandez, and the gap was coming down. It was coming down quite quickly, and Lowes was pushing on, but then the gap stabilised a little bit. But yeah, it was interesting to see, as you see me just slipstream past Morbidelli. Yeah, you had quite a few DNFs in Moto 2 with Lorenzo Baldassarri sporting a new paint job aboard the MV Agusta forward racing bike. Navarro, he unfortunately went down. Xavi Vierge went down. Albert Arenas, the reigning Moto 3 world champion, not having the easiest season so far. He went down, unfortunately. Simone Corsi, the other MV Agusta, went down. Actually, he retired. Fabio Di Giannantonio, unfortunately for him, he was looking pretty good. He managed to make his way up to 4th place and was trying to catch the other riders, but unfortunately he went down. Sam Lowes, he was closing in on Fernandez, Raul Fernandez, who was leading. It got the gap down to about half a second. And then, like I said, the gap went back up slightly to about 0.7 of a second. And then through the final corner, Sam just pushed a bit too much, and unfortunately for him, no, it wasn't the final corner, sorry, it was through Arrabbiata 1. He went a little bit wide, and yeah, the front just tucked and down he went, which is very unfortunate because he was actually dragging Remy Gardner with him, and they were both closing in on Raul Fernandez. And you know, if he'd just been a little bit more patient and maybe just settled for a couple of laps, then he might have been able to actually catch Raul Fernandez, because that is exactly what Remy Gardner done. But unfortunately, it wasn't meant to be. Sam lost the front, down he went, and another DNF for Sam Lowes, unfortunately. And Marcos Ramirez also had a DNF as well, and that was all the DNFs for the race. Joe Roberts had a fantastic race. He was showing his speed that we know he's got, and was fighting quite a lot of the race with Marco Bezzecchi. In fact, Roberts had to make his way through a few riders like Arbolino, Schrotter, and Iogura, and he managed to get up to Bezzecchi, past Bezzecchi, and then we'll speak a little bit about what happened between them on the final lap, because it is getting a little bit silly with track limits at the moment. Bit further down the order, Jake Dixon was having a pretty solid race. He was in a big group and fighting for top 10. We know that he's not had the easiest of times recently. He's obviously lost a bit of confidence as well, and obviously had injuries. So it's good to see him come back and get a decent race under his belt, and then finish in the points, which is good to see. Hafiz Syrin as well. It was good to see him back inside the top 10. Obviously, the fish was in MotoGP a few seasons ago, so yeah, we kind of expected him to be doing a bit more than what he's actually doing at the moment. But getting back inside the top 10, that was a very good result for Hafi Siren. And Cameron Bobier, he got a finish as well, and he was inside the top 10, so good to see that American as well. You know, getting some results that he's been needing. But back up the front towards the end of the race, Remy Gardner was closing down Raul Fernandez quite quickly, and it wasn't until the final lap he managed to put a move on Fernandez, managed to get through, and just managed to hold off his teammate to the line. So Remy Gardner took the win, Raul Fernandez took second place, and then there was, Joe Roberts did finish in third. However, he did exceed track limits. He didn't gain any advantage, and it was very, 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 very slightly on the green. We will be talking about track limits again later on. So because of that, basically it was very similar to what happened between Jorge Martin and Bezzecchi. Was it last year at Red Bull Ring? When one of them went on the green on the final lap and didn't gain anything from it, didn't gain an advantage, and because he went on the green, the race direction said they had to drop a position, and that's unfortunately what they done with Joe Roberts. He did get third, but they penalised him and told him to drop a position because he touched the green on the final lap, and unfortunately for him, he dropped down to fourth. Marco Bezzecchi did get promoted to third place. So yeah, Joe Roberts in fourth. Marcel Schrotter got fifth. Iogura, another good result for the rookie, was sixth. Tony Arbolino, another rookie, good result from him in seventh. Then you had Bobier, another rookie, in eighth. Siren in ninth. Stefano Manzi in 10th. Then you had Aaron Canet in 11th. A rider, I really don't know how the hell you pronounce that. Audiguer? No idea. 12th place. Hector Garzo in 13th. Jake Dixon in 14th. Boban Schneider 15th, who was the last point scoring rider. Then you had Vietti in 16th. Barry Bolter 17th. Chandra in 18th. And Marcon in 19th. And before Moto 2, they didn't tell the riders the news about Dupasquier because obviously they didn't want to distract them too much, and you know, they still had a job to do at the end of the day, so they decided to tell them obviously after the race because they didn't want it playing on their mind throughout the race. And yeah, that was Moto 2. So the overall standings for Moto 2 now: Remy Gardner leads on 114 points with his teammate Raul Fernandez in second on 108. Marco Bezzecchi is now third on 88 points. Sam Lowe's in fourth, 66 points. He's quite far behind now. Digi Antonio in fifth. He's quite far behind now on 60 points. Then you've got Joe Roberts in sixth on 44. Marcel Schrotter seventh on 41. Then you've got Iogura in 8th on 39, Aaron Canet in 9th on 35, and Tony Arbolino in 10th on 27 points. So before MotoGP kicked off, they had a 1 minute silence to pay respects to Jason Dupasquier. And yeah, then it was time for the GP class. And as I said, when I usually do these races, I've decided to, because I record these races before the actual MotoGP race happens, I basically use the previous race winner, which is why I'm using Jack Miller in this one, because he won at the previous race. But yeah, it was drama from the beginning, because before the race even started, as Morbidelli goes down because he went straight to the back of me, Enea Bastianini went straight into the back of Johan Zarco as they were forming the grid. So they did their warm-up lap. They came out the final corner. Obviously, most of the riders now have to, you know, put the brakes on pretty hard to engage the front hole shot device. And Bastianini, whether he was looking at his dashboard or just slightly distracted, came around the final corner, and then next thing you see from the onboard footage is him slamming his front brake on, doing a big stoppie and going all the way over and basically just crashing into the back of Zarco. Bastianini, he did run back into the pit. We kind of thought that maybe they might red flag it because, you know, it was a bit of a weird crash. I mean, not necessarily red flag it, but delay the start because of what happened. But they didn't. They continued. The Beast went into the pit to try and get on his spare bike, but unfortunately wasn't able to. And yeah, that was his race over, his home race over before it even began, which wasn't good for him. It did damage the back of Zarco's Ducati. Not too bad though. It wasn't too badly damaged that he obviously couldn't race. So yeah, that all started before the lights went out, and yeah, it was very, very weird when the camera cut back and you just saw Bastianini run into his bike with his hands in the air. But Yamaha now have the launch device on both the rear and now the front of their bike, and yeah, testament to what they've done, because off the line Yamaha have been losing quite a lot in terms of you know, acceleration and just getting a good start. But from pole position, Quartararo got a really good launch, and you see now that I do in fact have a long lap penalty to serve in this race, just because through the quick S's I kept touching the inside green. So I think I take it on this lap actually. Yeah, I do. And then the camera changes annoyingly. I don't know why it does that. It's so annoying. I was just trying so desperately to stay within the lines. We served it, and then we dropped back to 7th place. Got the achievement for serving it. But I was so annoyed because we were literally just holding on to the lead in this race, and then we had to do that, and we lost 6 places. But back to the actual MotoGP race. Yeah, Quartararo did get a good start, and didn't really lose any positions until the Ducati of Pecco Bagnaia got into its stride towards the end of the straight and managed to slide through into the lead. Marc Marquez had contact with, I think it was Brad Binder. It was really weird, but Marquez just trying to, you know, be his aggressive self, and kind of had a bit of contact with Brad Binder through, I think it was between turns 4 and 5. Or it might have been 2 and 3 actually. It was between one of these flip-flops, and yeah, he went down. Marquez went down, and when he was sliding on his bum, he looked behind him, but obviously Brad Binder had already been through. So yeah, Binder was fine, but yeah, Marquez was down, so he didn't get going again. So that's another race that Marquez unfortunately has not been able to finish and has crashed out. Luckily he is okay. It was a pretty timid crash. He just, you know, slid a bit, so he wasn't injured or anything, so which is good. Bagnaia back at the front into Arrabbiata 2. Unfortunately, he went a little bit wide on entrance and actually touched the outside curb. And when he turned in, obviously on the curb and then the white paint, which is fairly slippery, he lost the front of his Ducati and went down. And unfortunately, out of not just his race, but Ducati's home race as well. But yeah, it's sad to see Bagnaia going down. You know, I did kind of expect him to fight for the win, if not take the win this weekend, but unfortunately it wasn't meant to be. He made the mistake, he paid the ultimate price, and went down, which left Quartararo back into the lead. And Quartararo done what he likes to do, lead from the front, and basically do what Lorenzo used to do, get to the front and then just pull away, and that's exactly what he'd done. He did have a little fight with Zarco. Zarco got a good start, got into to 3rd place at that time, but then he was 2nd when Bagnaia went down. And Zarco was able to blast past Quartararo on a few occasions down the straight. But then once Quartararo managed to get past Zarco early enough in the lap to enable him to then put in enough of a lead so that Zarco's Ducati could not just blast past him. That was basically it from Quartararo. He just managed to pull away, and that's what the other manufacturers have got to do when they're up against the power of the Ducati. They got to get them as early on in the lap as possible, so that they can have that gap, because they know that if they didn't have a gap, they're going to lose the lead down the straight because of the speed of the Ducati. So Quartararo played it smart, got past Zarco pretty early on in the lap as I get nudged again by another rider. Quartararo managed to pull away. Zarco couldn't do anything, and Quartararo managed to get his lead up to over 3 seconds. The Suzuki's had a pretty decent race. They were battling just behind Zarco. They were working their way through the pack. They managed to get up to third and fourth, and then into second and third. And then unfortunately into the final corner, Alex Rins towards the end of the race binned it again. Rins is not having a good season. He's had a lot of crashes this season, and unfortunately he's added to that tally when he was in a decent position again, so not good for him. And then you had Miguel Oliveira making his way towards the front as well. It was good to see a KTM making progress and being able to fight with some of the other guys. And he managed to get inside the top three, and then he managed to get inside up to second place, which was good to see. And there wasn't really much that anyone could do. Got past Zarco, got past Mir. Mir tried his best to catch him on the final lap, but he couldn't quite manage it. And then a bit further back through the pack, forgot to mention actually, when Marquez crashed, Franco Morbidelli, what has he got to do to catch a bit of a break? He had to take avoiding action of Marquez's bike, and Morbidelli had to run into the gravel, which then of course lost him lots of time and positions. He went outside the points and unfortunately never managed to get back inside the points. Valentino Rossi had a much better race this time, his best race so far this season. Although not the best to start, but he did manage to pick off quite a few people, which was good to see. Alicia Sparger on the Aprilia. Probably expected a little bit more from the Aprilia this weekend, but it wasn't too bad a result for him. But back at the front, Zarco's tyres started going off a little bit more, and he wasn't able to hang with the likes of Miguel Oliveira and Joan Mir. Although towards the end of the race, Zarco managed to dig in a little bit more to catch them back up. But on the final lap, we had more controversy with track extending. Coming out of this corner, they run it to the left hand side, and then it goes green there at the end of the curb, and they were running on that. That's where Joe Roberts in Moto 2 went on the green and track extended, allegedly. Well, he did go on the green from the replay, but he didn't gain an advantage, and that's why he had to drop a position. So initially they went over the line with Quartararo winning, Miguel Oliveira second, and Joan Mir in third. But then they demoted Oliveira to third because he went on the green. So then Mir was second. And then, a couple minutes later, they then demoted Mir back to third because he in fact followed Oliveira on that green. And also track extended, so he then had to drop a position. But it was a little bit weird because, I can kind of see, how it happened, but there's also the case of, well, then why didn't Mir technically have to drop behind Zarco? But then I guess they look at it that they dropped Oliveira behind Mir, and then Mir had to drop behind Oliveira, and they've done it that way. It's just getting a bit ridiculous with the track limits thing on the final lap. Just literally, we saw it in qualifying a couple of races ago with Vinales, his fastest lap, which would have been pole, getting taken away because he literally kissed the green with his tyre. And that was deemed track extended, and he had to, pay the price for it. And I know that there's something to be said with the fact that, they've got to be seen going by it for, basically the letter of the law, and they've got to do it for literally every single time it happens and be a bit more consistent. Yeah, that's fair enough, but surely, a bit of common sense has got to come into it at some point, because otherwise it's just going to, potentially ruin some of the racing that we've got going on. So, I think they need to think of something else for that, because it was a bit stupid, and it's just getting a bit ridiculous at the moment. So Fabio Quartararo did go on to take a win. Once he got ahead of Zarco, managed to have that little gap as Marquez literally brushes past me. No one could catch him, and obviously he had arm pump surgery a few weeks ago, and didn't get arm pump around Mugello, which is good to see. The surgery has done its job, and he was able to take victory with Miguel Oliveira reinstated as second place. So good to see the Portuguese rider take home second place, and good for KTM as well. And then Joan Mir, the reigning world champion, did manage to get third place. Good result for him. Zarco did get fourth ahead of Brad Binder in fifth. So KTM really having a decent result. Jack Miller ended up in sixth place, which is not the position that I get. But because I just had no chance of catching the next group. Once that toe was broken down the straight, that was it. I couldn't do anything. I was good through sectors 1 and 2, but when it got to this corner, the AI were cutting the corner quite a bit, going on the green on the inside. So that's why I was a bit wary there. And then 3/4 away around the lap, the AI were just too fast. I couldn't really do anything, and my tyres were pretty shot by this point as well, which wasn't good, and the AI's tyres were still perfect. Brad Binder 5th, Jack Miller 6th, Alicia Spargo on the Aprilia got 7th. Maverick Vinales didn't have a great race, didn't have a great qualifying. Obviously he let Marquez get to him, with Marquez following Vinales in Q1, and then that put Marquez into Q2. Vinales tried to do a lap by himself and was looking like he was going to go quickest, and then he made a mistake into the final corner, ran too wide, and qualified quite far down, and he ended up in 8th place overall in the race. Danilo Petrucci was 9th. Good to see him get a good result. Obviously last time they came here in 2019, Petrucci won on the Ducati. Valentino Rossi got 10th. Rossi's first top 10 of the season with Petronas Yamaha. So good to see that. He was just ahead of Ika Lecuona in 11th. Paul Espargaro in 12th place. He was the top Honda, which is not great to see because Nakagami crashed out. Michele Pirro, who was standing in for Jorge Martin, he took home 13th place. Alex Marquez was 14th. Lorenzo Savadori got the last point in the 15th place. Franco Morbidelli just missed out in 16th. And Luca Marini was 17th place. And as we've already talked about with the DNFs, Bastianini didn't start the race because of that weird crash when they would go around to form the grid before the race. Marc Marquez crashed out. Bagnaia crashed out of the lead. Alex Rins crashed out, and so did Nakagami. So not a good day for Honda. They are really struggling at the moment, and even Mark can't save them at the moment. So it's not a good place for Honda to be. But unfortunately, that is what happens when they concentrate all of their development on one rider. And when they don't actually have him to develop the bike because he's out injured, they don't really know, which way to go. So, Marquez will bounce back. He will be back. Obviously, Catalunya is only 1 week away now, or less than a week away now at time of release of this video. So, we do expect Marquez to get back towards the front. at some point, but he had been struggling with pain throughout the weekend, and yeah, it's not good to see Marquez's name so far down at the moment, but it is what it is. It's unfortunate, but yeah, with the actual championship, Quartararo leads at the moment from Zarco, who's back up to second place, 24 points behind. So Quartararo hasn't quite got a full race win's worth of points over Zarco at the moment. Bagnaia drops down to third place, he's 26 points behind, so he is more than a race win's worth of points behind. Then you've got Jack Miller in fourth, 31 points behind. Joan Mir has moved up to fifth, he's 40 points behind. Maverick Vinales has dropped to sixth, he's 41 points behind. Then it's another 20-point gap back to Aleix Espargaro in 7th. He's 61 points behind. Brad Binder in 8th. He's actually moved up 3 places. He's 70 points behind. And Franklin Morbidelli moves down to 9th. He's 72 points behind. So, yeah, the ball is well and truly in Quartararo's court. And if that operation that he had to cure his arm pump has worked, as we think it has, then yeah, he's definitely got to be the favourite for the championship at the moment, which is good for Yamaha, and good that they've now got the whole shot device on the front of their bike as well as the rear. But yeah, as we get to the end of this race, which was a very, very difficult race, and yeah, very, very tough. It was, you know, I tried my best, but the AI around here are very, 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 very fast. But anyway, guys, that is it from me. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to leave this video a like if you enjoyed it. Subscribe to the channel for more content. I shall see you guys in the next video. Don't forget to stay safe, watch your hands, and look after yourselves. I'll see you guys next time. See you!